Placebo celebrates 20 years as a band this year. What moments do you remember the most?
Oh, it's a really difficult question to answer. So much has happened. But when you get asked that question, it's a little bit like when you walk into a record store, you know, kind of thing, and you had all these records in your head that you wanted to buy, but then you're faced with all of them, and you don't know what you want to buy anymore, really, you know. But we've played with some incredible people. We've played with so many of our heroes, and you know, it's really humbling, and it was a fantastic learning experience for us as well. So having the opportunity to do that it's pretty fantastic over 20 years.
What have been the hardest during these years?
The hardest things, I guess, when we changed lineup in 2007, it was a kind of like a make or break time for us. You know, we were either gonna stop or we'd have to change. You know, so that was a very traumatic period for us. But you know, sometimes out of trauma comes rebirth.
Yeah, what did you learn from that period?
How much lawyers get paid per hour, and you know, it strengthened our resolve. You know, Stefan and I were not prepared to give up, and we'd invested our entire adult life in this band. So yeah, it brought us closer together.
Your first album 18 years ago was a huge success. When you see it in the back mirror, how did you handle that success?
It was a mixture of, like, we really didn't believe it was happening at the time, and we were really young, and you know, and we didn't have very much money, and suddenly, you know, you have money and attention and all of these things, and you go a little bit crazy, you know, and so we went quite crazy for many years afterwards, and yep, a lot of it was quite fun.
How much rock and roll life do you live today?
Not very much, you know.
Do you miss it?
Oh, so, I don't know, sometimes, you know, sometimes, but it's not particularly dignified for, you know, a person of my age to be behaving like somebody who's 20 years younger, really.
Yeah, how much have you changed during these years?
I think a great deal. I don't know how I'd be able to sort of describe it really succinctly for you. But
can you tell how the music has changed?
Yeah, I think, well, yeah, I think we've continuously tried to take risks with what our sound is, and we've been kind of quite anti-careerist in a way. It's like as soon as we sort of had a song that was particularly successful, we didn't want to. We would do the opposite. So, you know, I suppose if success was the only motivation, you know, then I guess we would have managed our careers differently. But for us, it's not only about sort of, you know, making an emotional connection with people. It's having an emotional connection to the music itself at the time that you play it. So we have to kind of speak our version of the truth, our truth, every time that we play. So to play a song that you don't really believe in, but that a lot of people love is sort of a mechanical act, really, and it's not a particularly truthful one, in our opinion.
Your latest album was released last year. Love is the theme. Why is that?
Well, at the time, it emerged, we never sit down and never go, we're going to write an album about a swimming pool or about whatever. It's that people often ask us what our inspiration is, and I've come to realize that the process itself is the inspiration, and so it's discipline and process, and it's the act of actually writing itself that begins that influences you, and that lets you know what's going on inside of you, which perhaps you don't know at the time. So we didn't sit down and decide to write a record about love at all. It seemed that there was a theme emerging as we were writing it, So we had two choices. It's like, do we behave intellectually at this point and decide to steer it off in a different direction, or do we continue to follow our instincts and do this thing? But looking back at our career, in many ways, the majority of the songs that we've written have been about love in one form or another, but they haven't necessarily been love songs in kind of the classical pop sense of the word. The kind of I Love You Baby songs.
Have the process of writing, has that changed?
No, it's pretty similar to how it's always been. We get together in a room and we just make a lot of noise until something sticks. Really, sometimes we come in with ideas that we've prepared at home and throw them around. And some of the songs were more fully formed on this record because we'd had a longer break, so we were sort of writing during that break. But yeah, it generally starts with three of us under a railway bridge in London, just making a lot of noise.
I read in an interview with Stefan that he finds it harder and harder to let go of the material for every record. Do you feel the same way?
No, I feel like it doesn't really belong to me anymore once it comes out, and that you have, like, I suppose, like a child, you have to let it go and live its life, and it sort of lives out many different lives in the hearts of the people who love these songs. I'm very focused on the next song. Where's the next melody going to come from?
Who do you write for? Is it for yourself or for the audience?
It is for myself, and we're very lucky that a lot of people like it. That's what I was talking about earlier. I think we could have had a very different career if we'd have made different decisions and written not for ourselves, and had different motivations. But well, I'm doing this because obviously I have something to express, which is like a sort of a basic need, but I don't really always know what it is. To find that out is an interesting process for me. It's like a form of self-therapy, almost.
Now you're here in Norrköping at Bråvalla. How do you like festival gigs? Is it different from other gigs?
It's very different. When you're doing your own show, you're in control of everything.
You're more like a brick in a bigger game?
Well, there's so many more variables, and there's so many more things that can go wrong. And, this stage got struck by lightning today, for example, which is pretty extreme. There was
also visitors getting struck by lightning. Yeah.
So, crazy things happen at festivals. So yeah, it's obviously a bit more dangerous, and you can't really sort of control the environment as much, and it's much more of a step into the unknown.
So what do you prefer? This
Well, there's an obvious security blanket of sort of being in your own universe, you know, and it's really nice and warm, and you feel secure. So sometimes festivals can be quite scary experiences, you know.
how do you think this festival is going to be like?
I have absolutely no idea. I really don't. I don't know if anybody's gonna even show up and watch. It's not false modesty on my part. It's the truth. I really.
Why are you unsure?
It's just a feeling I have. I don't know. You know.
Do you have that for every gig, or is it just this?
No. But we'll see. We'll see.
What is your relationship to Sweden, except from having a Swede in your band?
Well, that's my relationship to Sweden, I suppose. Yeah, really, is having a songwriting partner and band husband, for 20 years, kind of thing. So, and being with him and his family, and it's been my exposure. Yeah.
Does the Swedish audience differ from audiences in Britain, for example?
I find audiences in big metropolitan cities to be quite similar, because they get a little bit jaded because all the bands come through, kind of thing. When you go to smaller places or countries that a lot of bands don't go to, like we've just come from Russia, and we played like 3 concerts in Siberia, for example. It's a completely different experience, because not very many bands go, and those can be really, really exciting concerts.
Are you planning for any new albums, or what are your thoughts about the future for Placebo?
Well, we're not going to stop, so at the moment we're going to tour and tour and tour and tour, and then we're going to make a new record. It sounds very unimaginative and boring, but it's just all that we've done for the past 20 years. So we don't really know how to do anything else.
What do you think you would do if it wasn't for Placebo?
I really don't know. It's been my entire adult life. I haven't really developed many other skills as a consequence of that,
Are you scared of the future? Like what would happen if Placebo didn't exist?
Well, no, I mean, to the future, I think there's not much point in being afraid of the future, It's like fear is means future events appear real, when they may not be, If you continuously sort of have regrets about the past and worry about the future, then these are 2 things that you can't control at all. Then you have no experience in the present, in the now. So that's what I try and do. Just try and be as in the now as possible.